they live in the dark. So
yeah,
you'll
I
have to
figured
adjust
in
your
the
eyes.
dark area. Yeah.
But once you got that figured out, you'll see them, and you'll see mine and Jordan's name on a lovely little plaque sponsoring it.
Awesome.
Welcome. This is Uncommon Sense, a CPA podcast presented by the Heshe CPA Knowledge Center. The center is an initiative of the CPA Education Foundation, the charitable arm of the Chartered Professional Accountant profession in Alberta. For the record, this CPA podcast isn't about bean counting. Our episodes feature conversations with Alberta CPAs sharing their insights on a wide range of timely topics.
Welcome back to part 2 of our conversation with Jeff Herzog. We'll pick up right where we left off. So you are on the board of Ortona Gymnastics, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
I don't know how you do all the things you do. I mean, we heard the bio. There's lots. So I can't imagine you have a ton of spare time. So what motivates you to keep giving back in all these different ways? And how do you pick where you give your time? You know, why Ortona Gymnastics?
Yeah, okay. Dear Lord, this is a tough one. So first off, yeah, I do not honestly have a lot of time. I like to view it as I have a very full life, which is good. That's what I want from my life. But yeah, it becomes busy. There are definitely a lot of moments of high stress and brought on by the fact that you have like a paying job, but then you also have these volunteer commitments on top of it, right? So, I mean, prioritization is obviously a big thing for me. But why Ortona Gymnastics? I guess I could start with that. So I am a little bit of a gymnast. I'm not Simone Biles. I'm not going to the Olympics or anything like that, but I still go to Ortona and their adult class. So again, if anyone wants to join, Wednesday or Thursday nights, I'll correct myself. You can only pick one or the other, but you can check it out. But in any case, I wanted to join the Ortona board, A, because there's sort of that connection to gymnastics already. B, because I work in academia, it's not like I'm out in, the world anymore, right? Like I'm not out practicing accounting or anything like that, or at least like I wouldn't be if I didn't force myself to do so. So that's where I kind of need to, reflect and say, what kind of teacher do I want to be? Do I want to be the one that just kind of keeps relying on things I did 10 years ago, or do I want to stay current and relevant? So part of that is serving on boards. Part of that is serving on like different volunteer opportunities too that relate to accounting. But yeah, with Ortona, it's been really great to serve on their board. I've learned a ton. It has actually been kind of a wild and very like eye-opening board to sit on. I've sat on a few different boards, and this one has been like a true educational experience to say the least. So yeah, there's a lot of learning from my end that comes from sitting on a board. So I get some personal benefit from it. But obviously, like giving back is very important to me. I sort of always grew up volunteering. My mother was very my mother, it sounds odd. My mom, Darlene, shout out. She was very big on volunteering. She always used to say, universities only take the cream of the crop and you need your volunteer hours to do that. So like, I remember we had like a spreadsheet of our volunteer hours that we would do like since kids because she thought that's what it took.
Oh, so you were destined to be an accountant from a young age.
Oh, definitely.
Like spreadsheeting as a child about volunteerism.
Yes.
Okay.
So like, yeah, I remember volunteering at like pancake breakfasts. I was in the 4-H club and did a lot of volunteering there. I was in the Students' Union, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So some of it is embedded in me, but I think overall, like volunteering just brings a lot of like value to your life. I mean, don't get me wrong. Everyone has the option to choose how they want to spend their spare time. Some people, want to read, watch Netflix, whatever, hike, I don't know. But for me, volunteering has sort of been the one thing I found to be most rewarding, and kind of you can reflect back on and be like, it was pretty worthwhile in most cases. I learned something. Somebody hopefully got some benefit out of me doing it, so on and so forth. But I would say it is becoming harder and harder to pick and choose what I do because life is just so busy and full. But yeah, you kind of just, I guess, have to pick the things that speak to you at the end of the day. Like, let me tell you, one thing I really want to do when I eventually have the time to is you can volunteer at the University of Alberta's paleontology lab and like clean up the dinosaurs, like the fossils. I wanted to be a paleontologist. Fun fact about me, wanted to be a paleontologist for like most of my life. And then I switched and decided to become an accountant. I think things worked out okay in the end. But yeah, that's one thing I really, really want to do. So, find those things that sort of already speak to or interests that you had that maybe you weren't able to ever do as a child. Maybe you never got to have a pet. Well, go volunteer at the SPCA or something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting thing that actually has come up a lot with a lot of my accountant friends, because we go through kind of that articling experience where it's just like work is your whole life for a while. And not to say that's the case for everyone all the time and whatever, but I think you and I both could say we went through that stage. Now is like, I don't know, real grown-ups.
Are we real?
Are we there yet?
Yeah. Is this like a simulation?
Like rediscovering things that you're interested in,
totally.
right?
Yeah.
Like getting hobbies and getting, again, this is a probably very typical accountant kind of thing to say, but like, I don't like doing things unless I'm good at them.
Okay, fair. Yeah.
And now I'm just like, no, I like painting.
Yeah.
I'm not good at it, but I like it.
Well, here's the thing. To get good at something, you have to do it over and over again.
Right?
Not everyone's a natural talent, right?
Yeah.
No, I totally get that. Like, take those opportunities now if you have time. Like, don't get me wrong. I know everybody has a life, but if you can find even like an hour and a half a week where you can do something that's just for yourself, I think obviously that has many mental health benefits and all those sorts of great things that we're after. But yeah, I mean, life is crucially short. Like, I started this podcast telling you that my dad passed away at 62, and like he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's kind of in his late 50s, but really had been living with the effects of it probably since his mid 50s. And I don't know, I don't mean to make it morbid and tie it back to things like that, but it did sort of like this past year I turned 31, and me, an accountant math, I'm like, 31 is half of 62. I'm at the halfway point for my dad's life, right? Yeah. And you kind of have to start thinking like, okay, like reflect back on what you did and think about how do you want to live the rest of it? Like, if you always wanted to paint or you always wanted to dig up a dinosaur fossil, like the clock's ticking in a sense, not to make it sound so foreboding, but yeah, like just do it. Dang nabbit. Like whatever Nike says,
okay,
right?
Nike.
Just sign up for it, do it. I have a friend who's taking accordion lessons. Shout out to Jamie. For the first time, he just always wanted to try accordion, so he's going to do it. So yeah,
cool.
you just kind of have to sign up for it. That's the first step. It's the hardest step.
Yeah.
Show up, do it. And if you don't like it, cool. Now you can find something else to do. But otherwise, you won't like live in regret when you're, I don't know, in your later years wishing you always tried to do a backflip in gymnastics, right?
Which you can do.
I can, yeah. I don't know if I'm going to do one on this floor, but in any case, yes, I can. And it's because I just said, I want to do this, right? This is a sport I love, and I want to keep getting better at it, so send it. What's the worst could happen? A broken neck?
Oh, dear.
Kidding. Not that. Do it in a safe environment, obviously.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay. So you talked about prioritization, which reminded me of this. And so I have to bring it up again, going back to those early days of, me roping you into all the volunteer stuff. Employer relations, hot tips for time management with Jeff.
Yeah.
That was like a blog post and a webinar that we did back in those very early days. So for anyone listening who maybe needs some of those hot tips, that's online on our website.
Totally. Yeah, I think that was with case writing, right? So yeah, any students, check it out. But it probably applies to life,
It probably
too.
applies to life. I don't remember. It's been so long. But
yeah, find the issues, budget, prioritize, assign time. Yeah, probably
there
works
you
with
go.
everything.
Right. Now, in addition to all the volunteering, you also give back in the financial sense through funding of scholarships and awards. So I understand that you and your partner fund a couple of scholarships, some of which are for 2S LGBTQIA+ students. That's fantastic. So what brought you there? What led you to that?
Well, I don't know if you can tell by my voice, but a proud member of the community.
Yeah.
The G specifically. Okay, so I mean, one thing that we already mentioned is I am very busy. So it does mean that you have to say no to a lot of volunteer opportunities. But one thing you can say yes to is money. If you have it, like you can spend money, right? So donating has sort of been a way to sort of still give back, but supplement the fact that I can't like physically be present and out volunteering in different organizations at this point. So there's that. It's a quick and easy way to give back. But I mean, kind of tying it back to these two scholarships in particular, we have one for business students, and then we also have one for engineering students because Jordan's an engineer. Your husband is also an engineer.
Yeah, accountants and engineers.
Exactly. Two peas in a pod. Anyways, so we set them up for that. And a lot of it, again, we're going back to maybe a bit of a morbid or dark place why it got created.
Oh, no.
But I don't know if you remember, it was a couple of years ago, and CPA asked if I'd participate in their like Pride campaign. And they featured me and Morgan. I don't know if you know Morgan at all. But so they had us up on like Instagram, LinkedIn, blah, 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 talking a little bit about our careers and sort of challenges that we faced in the workplace and so on and so forth. And I am happy to say that the majority of the feedback was very positive. But I mean, we can speak plainly here that when you post something like that online, you're going to have people that are upset by it, right? So there was certainly like a bit of backlash to having those posted up online. And it's nothing that really hurts my feelings, to be quite honest. I don't mean for that to sound arrogant, but you know, when you go for the first like 20 years of your life in rural Alberta, well, I guess not 20, 18. Let me do the right math. 18 years of your life closeted in rural Alberta where like people are hurling homophobic slurs at you left, right, and center. Like you kind of build up a little bit of a thick skin. So it didn't bother me so much, but it was more so a reminder that, you know, young people are still going to struggle with this. And I also just thought like, what if a young person comes across this post and they're seeing all these positive comments, but then they're going to see something very negative. And that's going to be the thing they fixate on. Totally. I know this because I'm an instructor. I get a student satisfaction survey every single term. And as much as I usually have positive comments, humble brag, there's usually going to be one or two people that just do not like anything about me. And those are the ones that I fixate on for the rest of my life. So for me, it was a little bit of a reminder, like, you know, I should be doing a little bit more with my community and recognizing, again, that there are barriers that are faced by members of our community. And one of the big ones is certainly financial. So it was sort of a quick and easy way for us to, I mean, obviously we're not going to solve the world's problems around this, but
could you, though,
you know,
please?
small little, I'm trying my darndest. But yeah, just the scholarship, it's meant to go towards students who are sort of leaders within our community. So it doesn't need to be anything really special. Like I'm not saying, again, you need to solve all the world's problems, but if you're sort of actively engaged, you know, to an extent, it's sort of replacing me, that I could have been actively engaged. Right. You're doing it for me. I'll pay you for it. So that's kind of the way that we've looked at it and set those up. And yeah, they've been going out to really like fantastic students that are doing incredible work, and hopefully we'll see them in the world of business and engineering shortly.
Awesome. I am going to continue on that vein, but because you brought it up, the student review that you get, I did look you up on Rate My Prof.
Oh, dear Lord.
Which is a very not good place to go.
I haven't been on there in years.
Don't. It's not good for your mental health. But there are a few that really stood out to me. So you say you fixate on the negatives. Well, I fixated on a couple positives.
Okay, that's good.
So this one was on a personal tax course. So, you know, super riveting stuff. But this student said every non-5-star review is probably written by one person who has no sense of humor. So that shows that in tax, you're bringing a lot of humor in, and they're enjoying it. And then another one, just I think on it like more of an intro course. All caps, which is kind of made it stand out. Every word he said makes sense. So you're making it make sense and you're making it funny.
Yeah.
And that's really...
Well, thanks for sharing the positives. Yeah, I do not go... I don't go on the internet because... Listen, anyone who ever wants to become a teacher, I kind of remind them of that. I'm like, you see the glamorous side, but bear in mind, if somebody does not like you, they will sound the alarm online. But no, that's awesome. Thanks. I'll hold on to that. And thank you for those students, if you're out there listening, for leaving such thoughtful comments. It really warms my heart.
Yeah. So how did you, like, you said quick and easy way to give back was setting up those scholarships. So pretty easy process. If anyone's listening, they want to do something similar. Like how do you even go about doing that?
So obviously ours are set up through the University of Alberta, and it made it a little bit easier because I work there. So from my perspective, it honestly just gets withheld from my paycheck, which makes it even easier. You could do it through a MasterCard or credit card payment, whatever, and maybe get some points. I don't know. And fact check me on that. I don't want to spew lies. I don't work for their department, but that's how I have it set up. But you would just reach out to like their giving department, whatever they want to call it, for like the school or maybe like the specific like school that you want to donate to. Mine is like the School of Business, obviously. Or if you want to go big and look at the entire university, go for that. But yeah, they kind of take care of everything. They take care of like even reviewing applications if there are any. A lot of them that we've set up. So we obviously have the two that are dedicated to the 2S LGBTQIA plus community, or you can call it the queer community. That's fine too. It's a lot shorter and easier. So we have two there, and then we have three for accounting students. the accounting student ones, I think it's just sort of based on like reasonable grades. I think one of them is based on like you being from rural Alberta. So you can sort of set up those parameters, but they kind of take care of everything otherwise. So it's super easy. If it's something that you're interested in doing, I just say reach out. They'll literally set it up in like a week and you'll kind of have it ready to go and launch probably within the coming year. And it's just such an easy way to give back. And if you're arrogant like me, you could put your name on it. Like I think
although your name's not on it.
My name's on the two
it is.
like two LGBTQ ones, but yeah, the accounting ones, no. The names on that are for my grandparents and my dad.
Yeah.
And that's just sort of like to commemorate their lives, right?
Yeah.
They're no longer with us other than June. June's still kicking. I don't want anyone to think June is dead. Her name is on one of those. She's my grandma. But yeah, in any case, it's easy. And I know, obviously, you don't have to do it through the U of A. You could also do it through the CPA Education Foundation.
Thank you. Just like going seamlessly into
plug that in.
my shameless
sorry,
plug.
I didn't mean to take your, lines or anything. But yeah, clearly there's that alternative as well. If you want to sort of reach like the broader accounting student community, that would be obviously a great option.
Yeah, shameless plug. I'm not surprised it was a nice, easy process for you. If anyone wants to give money, generally people are super receptive to that. So anyone who is interested in setting up a scholarship, if you are interested in doing it through the CPA Education Foundation, reach out to us. We would love to talk to you.
Yes. And one thing I will say too, this is one thing that I'll give a shout out to the School of Business with their scholarships. They are fantastic with getting the students to write you like a thank you letter. Like they really kind of, and I say like it doesn't really matter too much to me. Like it'd be nice if they can do it, but I think they really like kind of harass them for it. But it's actually great because then you get this nice, they send in the mail. So it's like nicely printed off on letterhead, colored, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I feel like I've been saying blah, 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 blah. Sorry, etc. You can sort of start to build up like this little portfolio. That's what I've done of like all the thank you letters. And I think, I don't know, you could probably bury me with it one day that just like.
Along with the bio I wrote.
Yeah, exactly. The bio and all the thank you letters.
Yeah.
Those can go with me in my grave.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And I guess too, for any students looking who maybe would like to apply.
Yeah, check them out.
U of A website, like I'm assuming easy to find more information and do that application.
And usually with the U of A ones too, and it's probably similar with other schools, a lot of them you're just entered into automatically. Like if you just sort of meet the conditions, they'll like automatically enter your name in to potentially get it. Some of them do though require, like a letter submission or something along those lines. So certainly check it out and see what sort of you're willing to do in terms of workload to apply. But there's a ton of money out there. Like please take it.
Yeah, it's amazing how many times I find myself saying, do you want free money? Like, just like, go here. Here's the website. Go apply. Because the more applications we get, the better. And sometimes there are awards that go unawarded.
Yeah,
and,
no, totally.
It's like we talked about, cost of living, absurd. And,
tuition, absurd.
Yeah. So there's a lot out there. It just does sometimes take a bit of time to sort through and all that. So I think it's fair to say that your students are very, very lucky to have you.
Except for the few haters. Clearly they don't share that opinion, but that's okay.
Yes, yeah.
The other ones, yes, very lucky.
So, besides being an accessible and engaging and a well-respected, award-winning prof, you are a champion of inclusivity, and we see that in, obviously, the financial aspect and in your volunteerism. But yeah, tell me more about that, about, creating a safe and inclusive space on campus in the School of Business.
Sure. Well, I mean, I hate to sort of bring up a term that's sort of, I don't know, beaten to death in a sense, but we always hear that representation matters, right? Yeah. And I do sort of truly believe that. And I know it's sort of difficult to explain to people who haven't ever had the issue of not having representation to really sort of feel what I'm, trying to, I guess, communicate. And that's okay. I don't need to change everybody's mind. But I do think sort of on a basic level that when things are sort of perceived as rare or abnormal, people start to sort of shy away from trying to achieve those goals. So what I mean by that is if you can't see somebody sort of achieving something that you want, it's sort of very difficult, again, for you to make those necessary steps and put in the work to get there because you just don't believe in yourself to be able to do it. And let me tell you, by somebody who is again, going the first couple decades of my life, kind of being told rather constantly, you're not good enough, you're not going to achieve things, you don't belong, blah, blah, blah. unfortunately, you yourself starts to believe that information after a while, and you need to look up to people who can show you that, no, all those other people are wrong. Like, you're fine. There's a path for you. Come with me. I'll hold your hand along the way. So, I mean, from my perspective, like, I will say, like, don't get me wrong, I love being a CPA. It's fantastic. I think it's a very welcoming and inclusive profession. But I mean, I go to a lot of events, whether it's through CPA or the university, and you've seen me and my partner at those events. And the reality is we're like the only two gay people at them for the most part. So it is quite isolating in that sense. And it's not like I ever feel unwelcome, right? Like, no, but everyone is fantastic. Nobody's ever made me feel that way. But it is sort of a little bit in the back of my mind, like, almost a sense of responsibility, I suppose, not to make me seem like, I don't know, I'm high and mighty, but I do feel like for myself, like, when I'm really struggling with something that's sort of unique to like me and my community, like, I can't look currently, and like, please correct me if I'm wrong. If you're out there, you can reach out to me. But it's not like I can really say, oh, there's, like a 50-year-old gay, man who's achieved like all these incredible goals. I don't know, CEO of a public company. Well, I guess I could reach out to Tim Cook. I don't know if he'll answer Apple, but we'll say more locally, right? Like, I don't have any of that sort of like mentorship to look to. I don't mean for that to sound sad and depressing, but it is kind of true. So it kind of gets back to this idea that, again, I don't want it to sound arrogant, but I feel a little bit of a responsibility to be very engaged in the profession or in the workplace on campus to sort of, not really hide from the fact that I am gay. I don't think I've been hiding from it here yet. Everybody's picked up on the fact that I'm gay, right? There's just a surprise now.
I think so.
I think we've covered off, right?
Yeah.
But, really just to show other people that are coming up through the profession or just, in business in general, that they have somebody that they can sort of look to. And I like to think that, I'm achieving some success in my life, and maybe it makes it a little bit more believable for them. And I just think that, like, when people have that sort of clear pathway to follow, and not necessarily that it needs to be other people who want to become like an accounting prof or whatever, like, they might want to do other things, but at least they can see that, I've worked hard towards a goal and I've achieved it. You can do the exact same thing for your goals. But when people sort of see that pathway, they're willing to put in the work. And I think that just sort of has broader benefits for the organizations they work for the communities they're in, the world, right? Like, if you're willing to, again, be part of this small group we mentioned of overachievers, those are the people that really kind of drive the workplace at the end of the day, right? They're the ones sort of pushing the boundaries, bringing in the revenues, that sort of a thing. So I think there's this growing movement of sort of anti-equity, diversity, and inclusion and belonging, but they're sort of recognizing it as like this sort of like very polarizing topic. But in any case, I guess I sort of view it in a different way that, that sort of diversity, again, it's sort of finance 101. I brought it up already. A diversified portfolio is a pretty like strong portfolio. And similarly, if you can sort of give your new staff in the organization, at least some sense of belief that they can be a partner or a CFO or a controller or, whatever, they're going to work harder towards that goal, and that benefits you. Yeah. And that's my thoughts on that topic.
Thank you for sharing.
I don't know. Was that, profound? Hopefully. I don't know.
Very. Yes. And I think, too, goes back to kind of what we were saying about Gen Z as well, right? Like, it all ties together. And when we look at the intersectionality of everything, it is just like, if we allow space for people to be themselves and bring themselves to work and allow diverse perspectives and backgrounds, we get to better solutions, right? Oh,
totally. Oh my gosh, you said it even better than I did. Okay, you get that point. But yeah, I mean, like, Gen Z is kind of on top of these things already, like equity, diversity, inclusion, ESG, AI, like, these are things that they've been sort of growing up with already to an extent. So they're way ahead of the curve of the rest of us in that field. But also it's sort of recognizing that, youth is diversity too. And not even youth, like, by no means want to suggest that you have to be young to become a CPA. I have plenty of students that decide to come into the accounting degree, like, maybe after having an entirely different career. And that's awesome, honestly. Yeah. So I think more so just like new professionals is maybe the way to put it. But, there's diversity in that too, right? Having sort of that, I don't know, open mindset, right? You haven't sort of been like
set in
put
your
into
ways
any sort
and
of box,
it's just
right?
fresh perspectives,
Totally.
different awareness of opportunities, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So like engage with them. Don't get me wrong. Most of them are terrified when you call them out in like a board meeting. And I speak to that from experience of calling them out in a classroom. But the more you can sort of encourage them to be sort of open about their ideas, they get to practice it more. They get to develop those ideas. They'll be a better worker because of it. But also sometimes there's some like real nuggets of wisdom in there that you can sort of take.
Yeah.
Other times it's a bunch of nonsense, but you take what you can get, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, as per usual, we have talked forever.
Yeah.
And I know we could continue forever.
Oh, totally.
But we should probably wrap up our discussion.
Yes.
As always, it has been a pleasure to speak with you. So thank you for taking the time to be here, for sharing, for your vulnerability, and also just for all the excellent work you do to advance business and accounting education. And with all of the busyness, thank you for saying yes to us. It was a pleasure to have you here.
I always say anything for the profession. No, thank you for having me. This was awesome. And thank you to all the listeners out there. You're superstars too. Until next time, bye-bye.
The Uncommon Sense podcast is presented by the CPA Education Foundation and funded by the Heshe CPA Knowledge Center. The Knowledge Center was created through a generous donation to the CPA Education Foundation by the late Brian Heshe. Brian was a distinguished Albertan, business leader, CPA, educator, and community builder. His generosity and commitment to education underpinned his good works across Alberta throughout his lifetime. We would like to acknowledge that the CPA Education Foundation offices are situated on the traditional Treaty 6 and Treaty 7 territories and Métis Nation homeland. The Foundation acknowledges that we reside on traditional and ancestral territories of many Indigenous, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Their histories and culture influence our community to this day. The CPA Education Foundation is committed to helping build a province where Indigenous people and their voices and experiences are heard, valued, respected, and celebrated. Technical and recording services for this podcast provided by Wolf Willow Studios in Edmonton. If you enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends about us. If you have any comments on the podcast, write to us at cpaef@cpaalberta.ca. To learn more about the CPA Education Foundation and the Heshe CPA Knowledge Center, visit cpaalberta.ca/foundation. Thanks for listening.